The ambit of the apparition at Knock in 1879 is very mysterious. Not a word is said, and yet it is understood and has always been well understood by the Irish people. Even in the month of August, for those 2 hours, she stood in the rain. They were the common people of all ages who saw her, and these were the people who had been through all kinds of hardships. Thousands upon thousands had died in the famine. Thousands upon thousands had been sent into places like the Barbados. But they had kept the faith. They had kept Our Lady in the family rosary, and they had kept the Holy Mass when they could get it, often at great cost, sacrifice, and even risk. And it has been seen that it is, as well as being a Marian apparition, a Eucharistic event, for it is linked with the 100th celebration of Holy Mass by Archdeacon Kavanagh, precisely for those who had died and for whom there were no stipends for Mass to be offered for their soul. These were the common people who had died just like that, in anonymity, but their souls went on and had to be taken care of. And so the Lord is recognizing that sacrifice of the good Archdeacon by making it also a Eucharistic vision. The Lamb, precisely its sacrifice, the cross, the altar, and then the only moving part of it, the angels hovering around and adoring, round and round for 2 hours. There is a stationary movement in the figure of St. John. On one side, he is actually in action, but is not moving in the apparition. He has this book, and he is preaching. So we have the other pole, that of the Word. And St. Joseph is there close to his spouse, quietly praying and accompanying. Our Lady is looking upwards and in heavenly mode. She is Queen, and this crown on her head indicates that, Queen of Ireland. With regard to what is happening in this, we need to be aware that she would perhaps want us to look again at that apparition and draw a few conclusions for our own time. One is her presence. Remember that the Rosary kept the families together and kept the faith together when they could have little else. And we opt to have other presences in our day. Noise, background noise, other things, urgencies, crowd out the well-said Rosary. In fact, we remember that later on she came back at Fatima and explicitly asked for the Rosary every day. It was a request that she made each time in all those apparitions. But then the Eucharist, we would perhaps listen to her again on that, because the Lamb is adored, protected, surrounded, and we need to do the same. There have been indications that the Lord is not content about the way he is being handled in the Blessed Sacrament, even here in Ireland, the last of which is this strange miracle where precisely an angel has intervened and taken the sacred host out of the man's hand when he was about to take it out of church. And it went into the air, was suspended there, and was seen by 2 ladies at least, and then went towards the priest and dropped into the empty ciborium, for he had just emptied it. indicating that God wants us to take care of the Blessed Sacrament with greater care. And I am sure that Our Lady of Knock, if she were to come back in our time, would indicate that that is not always the case, and that her son is being very casually handled. The way that anyone comes forth without any preparation at these celebrations when people are present from all over the place, weddings and funerals especially, are not as they should be. And indeed, Pope Benedict did request way back that this should be looked at, for it is, after all, an attack, one more attack on the sacred. And when we are in the presence of God in church, that same presence is silent, but requests from that silence the respect that the angels had at Knock. But the angels are there, all around, adoring, and therefore our language should be theirs, silent praise, and not talking around the presence, the double presence of God and the presence of the angels, about anything to anyone, and often in a loud voice. And also in the worship itself, it should be worthy of the one adored and of the ones adoring with us, the angels. Therefore, the whole notion of clapping man and laughing loudly is out of place. And we should not change mode immediately after the celebration. If we have to talk, it should be outside. The presence is then in our heart, and he should have total attention. On this day, one remembers also those souls gone before us from this Emerald Isle, many that we have known, many that have died before what we think would be their time. I think on this day of Ray, who would come here often and was always at the Latin Mass and the first to arrive, even though he had to walk a long way on foot. He would be in prayer before I got there, and he would always come to confession afterwards. He died on this day while about to watch online from hospital the anniversary Mass of his grandmother, who had died on the very same day. And they had this one thing in common, a great devotion to Our Lady of Knock, and also the daily rosary. They would pray with the sick. They would also pray with each other. And indeed, that previous year he had been singing in her ear this very hymn of Our Lady of Knock, which was sung when his body was being carried out of church in Navan. His grandmother obviously had come to look for him, and what an encounter that must have been. He was somebody who promoted Our Lady with public processions and told the police afterwards that it was happening, not before. There were some permissions that he knew had to be asked for afterwards. And he also was somebody who was involved in organising these rosaries on the coasts covering Ireland. There was a huge push to avoid things like abortion and same-sex marriage in Ireland from the common people, but unfortunately we know that these were being pushed with great power and money from questionable sources at times. The common people of Ireland did have strongly the faith until the scandals were pushed hugely by the media, which of course was something that satanic forces were amplifying and pushing to get away from the hands of the people, the rosary, and from their hearts the faith. It was very well orchestrated by powers of strange origin. Satan is very clever, but Our Lady is unchanged, and the sacraments are unchanged. We need to change and not think that time has to catch up with things. With regard to this feast, it would be well to think also of the fact that we do not know how long we're going to be here for. And those people who in great poverty had little but had the faith and took the sacraments, confession especially seriously, were in a better place than we might be in our time with all our wealth. For riches are not on the level of wealth. It is the soul that is poverty-stricken when it actually can't be ready to go. We ask then that Our Lady will give us the faith, the same faith that these people had, and especially a devotion to a well-said rosary, and also a well-received Eucharist. They made it, these people, with simple means, and we must do the same. There is a beauty in dying young. A little friend of mine died about the same age, Hugh. He also would come to the Latin Mass. These people died well, having received the sacraments. They are safe. It is not when we die that matters, but how we die. Ray might be saying, I will never grow old. Goodbye, dear Ray. What 'tis to die, what 'tis to lie in peace, with neither grey nor wrinkle, twinkling aye in memory's air to be, where here will cease the shrivelling of plucked days. What is to stay for ever and a day upon a page of youth and beaming court? What 'tis to cry at the aeons come no more, nor bid me age or wilt with your long wearing. I will die, and in a breath blow out the hours that kill the beauty of a face. I will one ray have glimmer in the trail of days that still I would perhaps have walked. For the end of day for me at noon did fall, but I gave all with pierced lung, the young and old to call. Indeed, he would call from his hospital bed to those in the same ward and testify. He would go into prayer mode and pray in tongues. He was somebody who was not shy to share his faith. The Rosary, when prayed in public, is a gentle witness, quiet as Our Lady was quiet at Knock. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostre. Amen.